Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So I wanted to do this video in regards to love is like a garden that it needs cultivated. I do believe today we are struggling in the world of love and relationships because I do think there is a darker, deeper force behind this to help destroy us. That is a whole separate topic in itself, but I think right now men and women are being bred to hate each other. When you start to analyze things from a feministic versus this like red pill manosphere point of view, it's like two extreme ends of the spectrum, and they're like two balls of magnets that are going against each other. In addition, I do think between social media and the movies and Hollywood and just programming from society in general, we've kind of become adult childs or adult children, and it is really, really hard and difficult to cultivate sustaining, loving relationships because we act like children. There is a rise in narcissism, in addition to our personal standards have become so low. So it's like, you have movies like the Will Ferrell, Frank the Tank stuff where it's like, I can't even think of the name of the movie, but you have like three guys in their 30s that are going back to college to open up a fraternity, and they get so wasted and drunk that, it's like that's their life. And it's like breeding man-child type behavior. And women can be in that very same boat where they're kind of bred to be more like little girls or little children. And it's really difficult to sustain a healthy, happy relationship with one or both of these type of people in it, because there is a lack of maturity, a lack of reasoning and understanding to have adult-like conversations in order to go in a future of having a very healthy and happy relationship. Millennials are just weird in general. It is a very bizarre, socially engineered generation. We are a byproduct of Disney. So a lot of girls are living this life dreaming of their, Prince Charming to sweep them off their feet, and little boys are kind of just, being taught that they can be, like Superman and Batman and Aquaman and all this stuff, and, they can be some, societal hero and just kind of rot in their man cave and just never grow the fuck up. And that in itself is not sexually desirable. So there is this battle that's going on within us. But I will say that a lot of my thoughts about this have been stewing in my brain for at least over a year at this point. And a lot of it has to do with my personal experience of going through a divorce, in addition to progressing myself spiritually, but also hearing stories from people from divorce support groups. So the one thing to know is, or the best thing that was told to me while I was going through a divorce from an older guy who was, he's born in the 60s, he's Christian, he's not originally from this country, but he told me that love is like a garden and that it needs to be tended and cultivated every day. And that in today's standards that there is a lot of love that is of conveniences. And I do think a lot of times, if I look back at my own personal experience, getting together with somebody in your early 20s, you go through a lot of growing pains, you work a lot of kinks out with each other, but there are probably also certain types of conveniences that happen in that type of relationship. The one thing millennials, a lot of millennials have a really hard work ethic and a good work drive, and that's not a bad thing, but it does become quote unquote bad is when your life is continuously revolved around work and your self-worth is attached to things like your job title or becoming famous. There are so many millennials who secretively desire to be well known and famous. It doesn't necessarily mean by being an actress or anything like that, but like people want to become like a well-known YouTube star or a famous and known writer and things like that. And so, being a well-known writer might not necessarily mean that you're getting a book deal from Penguin, but you might have a well-known blog, and that's completely fine. It's finding some level of contentment. But when it comes to understanding love is like a garden, it is a metaphor, but it does take some form of maturity, and I do think some form of spiritual involvement on both ends in order to make this relationship work. A lot of times, especially men, have such a rotten attitude about relationships. It's like, oh, I got to hang out with my girlfriend. Or I've heard it from my clients who are in their early 30s where it's like, their millennial aged boyfriend, they're between the ages of 31 and 33 years old, the male and the female, that it's like if the girl wants to hang out, she's being needy. And I'm like, there's no way a relationship can grow and thrive when there's some level of distance. A man that is always hiding in his man cave, to have some form of distance in the relationship is kind of bizarre, and their relationships can't grow and they can't become more intimate when people are putting themselves in their own space or their own you do you, I do me, and then we just kind of cohabitate together. So this is where we are having this rise in this type of cohabitation type of love and romance, and well, the reality is there is no romance. It's just like being roommates with a label of being boyfriend and girlfriend, and then it's like you just have sex when it's convenient and things like that. So I will share some more thoughts, but I found a poem online that's, the title is called Secret Garden, and so the gist of it is love is like a garden. It needs to be nurtured and tendered. So here is the poem. You have planted a seed in the secret garden of my soul that I will water every day and give it love to grow. I will nurture it and take care to give it all that it needs and grow a symbol of our love from this sacred seed. As I watch it blossom, I think you are here with me and dream of the blessed day when together we shall be. If you are ever lonely or sad or blue, step into our secret garden where I wait for you. Come share in the splendor that our love has grown, and in my arms by this rose, let our secret be known. And so that's really sweet and endearing. And if, life back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s was not easy for women, right? Like the women's rights thing, that's a whole other topic in itself. But like life wasn't easy, but men at least had some form of romantic gesture on how to court a woman, to where today it's like this thing of just like getting drunk and having sex, and there is no validity toward love and sex being this sacred thing. It has become animalistic. It has just become this form of convenience, like, oh, I'm kind of broke, so we can be roommates and share our rent and things like that. And that's coming on the other side as well. I've just been reading a lot about millennial men are now becoming gold diggers, where they have such a lavish lifestyle in their, hobbies and the cars and all the shit that they buy, and they kind of need mommy to pick them up and help share their rent or pay their rent, or, eventually see if they can borrow money from you. And that in itself is like being a viper. It's absolutely horrible because it's taking advantage of a lot of really good-natured women who are giver souls in itself and will do anything for a guy, and they end up getting taken advantage of. So a lot of times we've had this culture where men are just taking advantage of women with sex, and now you're finding like men are taking advantage of women for emotional support and now financial support. So I think if you want to have a relationship that is like a garden where it is cultivated and tended every day, love in itself is like a full-time job. Maybe not every 30 days of the month can you spend time, just sitting there and talking and boosting each other's egos and stuff like that. But the reality is you have to spend time, energy, and effort to make love grow and to keep the romance alive. Sex is going to wear off the longer you're in a relationship. I was in a relationship for almost 10 years, and as I've done research, as I talk about other videos, they say the tipping point of where things start going down in a relationship is at around the 7-year marker. Things fall flat, we have less standards, we become too comfortable. And what I mean by that is like, just because I have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or a husband or a wife doesn't mean that I need to keep up my personal standards. So it's like, I saw this going out to dinner in Ohio. It's like we just wear our sweatpants and sweatshirts going out to dinner with ourselves or with the kids, and it's like, oh, well, I don't need to look good, or I don't need to present myself well to society because I am in a relationship. That is bullshit, and that's the stuff I think that I've learned through divorce, where things get too comfortable and things become less sexually desirable. And it is really important to maintain some form of standard within ourselves, within our attitudes. I'm not saying you have to buy designer clothes, but you can at least present yourself well. And if you've ever traveled to Europe, you know women and men in Europe present themselves well. These are old school traditional values, and it works. And it's not walking around town like a slob in sweatpants. And I had that experience in Germany, where Christmas Eve is more of the important day of being celebrated for Christmas in Germany than Christmas Day. It's opposite in America. And Christmas Day, like, people do actually go out, and coffee shops are open in Germany. And so I remember my ex-husband and I, we literally went out in our fitness clothes, sweatpants, and we looked like bums that just rolled out of bed, where every other German was, they presented themselves well in society, even to go grocery shopping or go out into town to get a coffee. And so it was a big awakening for us that we were like, oh my God, we just look horrible. And that's where our standard in America has just gone down the tubes. It's like, you get in a relationship and you let yourself go. You let yourself gain a bunch of weight. You eat like shit. You watch a bunch of television, and that should not be the standard, because that will destroy relationships, and it won't make any sort of garden cultivate when you're just letting things go. You need to understand that in order for a seed to germinate, the soil needs warmth, and the warmth comes from the sun. And that's the exact same thing as what a love relationship is like. A garden needs water, it needs nutrients, and it needs warmth. And that's the same thing. So what we need is daily sort of attention, affection, appreciation. I'm just looking at my notes here. And it needs daily gestures to help fertilize the garden through affection, attention, appreciation, and acceptance. So there are going to be disagreements that we have with our spouse and our, significant other and stuff like that. And to some degree, we all judge in today's society, but we have to understand the difference between discernment and judging. Putting people down for their lifestyle choices or their life or career goals is not going to be very optimistic. If somebody has too high of a pie in the sky type of business pursuit, you don't have to shoot it down by saying that's not realistic, but just, you can kind of build some baby steps, as in like, okay, well, that's a really big grandiose goal, but how are we going to get there? It's still encouraging people to live their best and be the best individuals that they can. And I've said this in other videos, the best relationships are where two people can grow individually, but grow on the same trajectory and the same path together in life. We have to be individuals to some degree. That's just how we're set up today in today's standards of modern society. So when a garden is thirsty, the leaves begin to wilt on the flowers and the trees. And so when you are being thirsty in your own love and relationship, it's almost like you want to drink from the reservoir of the other person's heart or soul. And this is where you're craving something. You're either craving affection, attention, some nurturing and things like that. And that's where it's really important to be in relationships that have equal balance of giving and taking. If one person is always giving and the other person is always taking and receiving, it's going to lead to an imbalance, and an imbalance will destruct over time. Imbalance in the soil will not cultivate plants. The plants may germinate, but they might not grow to fruition to bear the fruit and the seeds and the flowers from that specific plant. It's the same thing when we forget to water our own garden. Our body is an ecosystem. If you just fill your body with a bunch of negativity and junk food, eventually you're going to have a disease, you're going to become pre-diabetic, something is going to happen, you might develop cancer and things like that. So it's really important to know that how we nurture ourselves is very symbolic to how we nurture our relationships. And in today's millennial generation, we are so excellent at nurturing our work relationships and our job title and building ourselves professionally, and we are fucking horrible at developing ourselves spiritually, but also our own relationships. And I've seen that in my own life. Being younger in my 20s, my ex and I were so career ambitious that it's not saying that our relationship was one of a convenience at all, but it's like that sometimes was on the second level, and everything work-wise was up here, and it was a very academic and intellectual relationship. So I think I just want to end with just reading something here. To keep love alive, vibrant, and growing in a relationship, so a relationship is always evolving and growing, it needs tending. Like a garden in the springtime, we first sow the seeds of love with optimistic intentions that an excited expectancy for the future. Daily, when we walk together in our garden of love, we tune in mindfully to the other so we can be ready to respond to each other's needs to keep the relationship happy and growing in a healthy way. We are resolute in our belief and faith that if we provide our garden or our relationship with what it needs, that it will grow and flourish naturally, and it will overcome any setback or obstacle in its path. We dream about our future relationship together like we dream about our colorful garden landscape and how it will evolve over time. A thriving love needs constant nourishment, just like a garden. We fertilize it, we mulch it, we keep it well fed and moist with its daily gestures of affection, attention, appreciation, and acceptance. The optimal soil in our garden is full of life, nourishing organisms necessary for healthy and abundant growth. The most fulfilling relationships are also built on a solid foundation of shared values and interests that can serve as a common bond to bridge the gaps that can occur between couples from over time. Such challenges are really blessings in disguise, and we can inspire more growth and understanding when we deal with them compassionately and with mindfulness. So I just wanted to end with that. I hope that this is some food for thought for you to think about. All relationships are built on some solid foundation, trust being one of them. If you don't trust your partner, it doesn't seem like your relationship will most likely grow. So we need to up our standards in our own personal caretaking, but also our standards in our relationships. They shouldn't be roommate type of situations. That is, I really believe, is a socially engineered path, because a lot of people today are fearing marriage. They think of it as a business deal and a business contract. They don't see it as a sacred union between two souls. You see that more with men than with women, having that point of view. And I believe that if you want to have a healthy relationship, this comes through confronting the other person in terms of not confrontation, but in terms of presenting this type of need that you want to walk together in a future going into a brighter, happier, healthier garden, not walking, through a forest that's been burnt with fire and it's just kind of like, this is it. So these are some thoughts that I've had. If you have any thoughts, please share them below. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this channel. You can help me build it. Also, you can support me on Patreon if you believe in my voice or my message. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Have a great day. Bye.